Welcome to another episode of Everybody's Got Something. I'm your host, Seth Hoffman. Today on the show we have Tom Andes, writer, musician. Let's get into it and have a great time.
If you see me walking out some lonely night and you hear me talking, that don't mean I ain't right. Since my baby left me, I don't have nowhere to go. Just wander near and far, searching high and low. And oh, I don't need nobody else. I'm my own best company. I'm walking by myself. Sometimes I get high, and sometimes I get low. But most of the time I'm stuck in the middle, no particular place to go. Once I had a wife, and a family too, but they up and left me flat broke with this old buckboard canoe. Now I've got $1 and a can of kerosene, and got 2 tins of Hormel chili, another of Franks and beans. No, I don't need nobody else. I'm my own best company. I'm walking by myself. And there's an old gray cat that hangs around my door. He looks a little long in the tooth, but he keeps coming back for more. All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right, we are here with Tom Andes. What a pleasure
Thanks
to get to be with you. We've been kind of hanging out the last few days because I've been listening to your new album.
Right
so
on.
I feel like we've been hanging out.
Yeah.
But it's nice to actually sit here.
Thank you for
in
having
person.
me. Yeah, I
pleasure,
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Yeah.
So why don't you start off tell us about that song you opened up the show
If you
with
see
there.
me walking?
Yeah.
Well, so I wrote that song's in my I was on the first EP I made, which ended up on, I put the first 2 EPs I made on like a vinyl project, like on an LP.
Yeah.
And I wrote that song when we were still living in New Orleans. I think it has a little bit of a New Orleans kind of bounce or vibe to it. And actually I was playing with this buddy who played clarinet, and I wanted to write something that would be like an appropriate clarinet blues. So I actually kind of wrote that song with the clarinet in mind. And then he didn't play in the recording. A different friend came in and overdubbed. We recorded it as a band, and then a guy came in and put some clarinet on top of it in the studio. And it's just about a guy, there's a guy in our neighborhood in Mid-City, New Orleans, who used to feed all the cats.
Yeah.
And people would get mad at him because he would put out dishes of cat food. And I think there's lots of like street cats in New Orleans.
Yes.
And people would write rude things to him in the sidewalk chalk. and you jerk, you shouldn't. And I always like, I guess I felt like I love cats, and so I've always felt like I sort of identified with that guy and felt like a little bit sad for him. And also that song was a little bit of on John Prine's last record. There's a great line. The guy in the first song on that record is eating there's this line about needing help with a can of pork and beans. He wants somebody to come over and eat canned pork and beans with him.
Yes.
And so I borrowed that, kind of sneaks its way into the song a little bit.
Yes.
I borrowed a little bit of that for the song. So
There's New Orleans is a theme in I guess in a number of the songs.
Yeah.
And so tell us, where did you come into the world,
Sure.
and when did you end up in New Orleans? And just give us a little bit of a background on
Okay.
your early journey coming into this world.
Okay. I grew up in rural New Hampshire, of all
Okay.
places.
Okay.
And in a town, I was a very, no shade at any of these things, but it was very white, very Christian, very conservative town.
Yeah.
Not a lot of dancing, not a lot of music, not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so, but then when I was 18, I went to Louisiana for the first time. I went to New Orleans for the first time.
And what inspired that trip?
That actually was I went with my dad because my parents had lived there back in the day.
Okay, so
right?
there's some family history.
Yeah, we had
there.
this kind of family connection, and we had this family friend who was one of the 14 people who would open Tipitinas.
Okay.
So he took us out to see, I think in a week and a half, I'm pretty sure we saw Charmaine Neville, John Mooney, John Cleary, Rebirth Brass Band, and maybe one or two other. And it just blew my mind because it was I had grown up. We grew up in such a rural area that we didn't have cable.
Wow. Okay.
So my generation, I'm 50. I feel like my generation grew up on Thriller and stuff like that.
Yes.
But we didn't have MTV. So I actually kind of more grew up on boomer generation, Zeppelin and the Stones and
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
Yes.
So I was just oh my God, all the music, I was realizing that all the music that I loved kind of came from blues and came from a lot of the
Yes.
music I was hearing in that place. And so I just kind of fell in love with it. And
were you a musician already at that
yeah,
at that
I
time?
played guitar since I was 13.
Okay.
I've always played guitar. I've always written. I played in bands when I was younger. I didn't play in bands and didn't play out for a long time. And then I started playing out and gigging again. But yeah, I'd always played music. So that was very much a formative experience, I guess, as far as music and what I felt like I wanted to play. And then, and the record that I've just made that is coming out now is...
Tell the
Sure.
name of the record.
The record is called Wonderful Days.
Wonderful Days.
And
which you will have if you listen to this.
I hope
record.
so. Yes, I hope so.
Yes.
It is designed to make you have a wonderful experience. But that I didn't really think of this until I was sequencing the song and the records, but there's a song on the first side of it that is about sort of the experience. It's not really autobiographical, but it's about the falling in love with New Orleans, about when I first came to New Orleans. And there's a couple songs on the second side about sort of leaving New Orleans. So I think my wife and I moved to Albuquerque about 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, something like that.
From
New Orleans.
Okay.
You're gonna get my whole life story now.
I hope so.
So I went there as a teenager, and then I went back there to go to college. I went to Loyola University. I finished at Loyola. I stayed there. And
what did you study? when you were there?
English.
Okay.
I was in English. And now I think I was still playing music, but just kind of on the side then. That wasn't. I think.
And was just out of curiosity, was the English major? Was it kind of well, I'm a songwriter, or was it totally separate?
Kind of totally separate. I mean, partly it was just when I went to college, it was just kind of by default. It was what do I like to do?
Yeah.
I think if I'd probably been smarter and more pragmatic, I would have studied business or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
A lot of the English majors I knew were going to be lawyers, and I knew I didn't necessarily want to do that.
Yeah.
But I always, it's I wrote. Actually, I wrote mostly poetry when I was an undergrad, and I always wanted that poetry to have the energy or to have the stuff that I heard in the blues music and the R&B and the funk and the stuff I was listening to in bars, if that makes sense. And then I met the person who I eventually married. We met, she's from New Orleans. We met, dated for 2 years, moved to California together, and then broke up for 10 years, during which I mostly stayed in California with a little sojourn in Arkansas. And then when we got back together, I went back to New Orleans because she had gone back there, and I had always missed it. So I've actually lived in New Orleans twice. I lived there 4 years the first time and 12 years the second time. And then we moved here together about 2.5, 3 years ago. So
I don't know if this is off topic, but
No, that's
being
all right.
a part 10 years coming back together, I'm fascinated
Yeah.
by, did you change, she changed, or you just needed some journeys to go on?
I think we just both had a lot of growing up to do, like a lot of stuff to figure out kind of separately. And maybe like it's weird, like a generation or two ago, maybe we would have just like gotten married in our 20s.
Right.
Like
yeah,
it's
no, that's what I thought I was going to do. So we grew up, probably your parent. I mean, back then that's when we
what
were
you did.
kids. That's what
If you
did.
waited until like 28, that was like
What's
late.
up? What
Yeah,
are you thinking?
Yeah, you were like a spinster or
Yeah.
whatever the the male
Yes,
equivalent of
spinster.
that slur is. But yeah, so I think we both just had like a lot of growing up to do. Not that we
Sure.
still. I think since we got back together, we've both grown up a lot.
Yeah.
Being together, but yeah, I always like to tell people 10 years off is good for any relationship. It'll benefit any partnership. But yeah, it's interesting like how we sort of found our way back to each other.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah.
And has she always been supportive of the music?
Very
and
much
that?
so. Yeah. And she's. I mean, she studied music in college. She writes. She has turned me on to many of the best books I've read. I think we share a lot of that stuff. She's a doctor. She actually works in medicine, but that's what she's always, I think, been like a creative person. So I think we very much share that.
Complement each other.
Yeah, and I feel very grateful though, because I think she has been.
Yeah.
She has always, this isn't the easiest life always doing like creative stuff, and so she's always been very supportive of like me making the time and like having the space for those things. I feel like.
And did you come to Albuquerque for
her job?
For her
she
job.
got a job, and I love New Orleans. I miss New Orleans, and sometimes I miss New Orleans a lot. Like the creative communities there, especially and like the music community, but then also the writing community. There was like an amazing literary. Yeah, like I always tell this story. I had my friend Anel Lopez, who has a wonderful book, a debut collection of short stories called "I'll Give You a Reason."
We can put a link to that even in the video description.
Sure, yeah, if you want, that'd be awesome. Yeah. She's an amazing writer. One of the last times I was back there, the release party for that story collection, it was at a wine bar on Oak Street with a capacity of like 120 people. They were turning people away because it was at capacity. I've very rarely seen that. Wow. It's like there's something about like New Orleans has people have like very public lives, and there's like the parades and Mardi Gras and second lines and all that stuff. And so I think that just sort of reflects itself in the literary culture. And I think also it's a place where creative people come. Yeah. So there's like a lot of people there like doing that kind of work who want to show up and support that kind of work. And so so that I missed, but we were also kind of ready to leave because it's a hard, we're both, I'm 50 and my wife's a year younger than I am, and it's a hard place to imagine in some respects. I think like growing old, although lots of people do.
Sure.
And people have been predicting its demise for 300 years,
right?
And it's still there. So I don't know, but we at least for now we kind of wanted, it can be a hard place to live. Like I think for Hurricane Ida, we evacuated, and by no means we have like the worst. People have much worse stories, but driving every summer for like a certain period of time, you're like, I might have to just put the cats in the car and drive like 6 hours to Atlanta in the middle of the night, just and hope the house is still here when we get back. And I think that my wife in particular, that had really started to take a toll.
Yes. And so, how has it been when you first kind of landed in Albuquerque? Did you know much about it? Had you spent time here? What was it like for you?
We hadn't been, so we came out once or twice. We'd come out to visit. It's funny, actually. There's been like these weird full circle things where like there's a guy I play music with sometimes now who I met the first time I came here who did an intern year. So my wife had done a resident or intern year here in like 2009. Okay. So we have a couple friends and we come out to visit, and I've met some people. I also have a longtime editorial client, a guy named Michael Allison, who's a terrific singer-songwriter who has a project called Jack County Line. And so, when I think within the first week, I feel like I really lucked out. I came here and I was like really freaked out about kind of leaving the New Orleans kind of like music scene and stuff like that. So I was looking, and I think I went to High and Dry, and I saw a band called Radio Free ABQ, and I emailed the band leader from that band, a guy named Dave Purcell, the next day. And I was like, hey man, I just moved here. And he emailed me back. I don't know, like he was so generous. He emailed me back with like, here's a list of 15 places you should try to find gigs. Here's a list of like 15 people you should follow on Instagram, et cetera. What the funny part is I actually ended up playing in that band like a year later, because as it turned out that he'd possibly been looking for like a guitar player.
Yeah.
But that was, and Dave introduced me to people who Debo Orlovsky, who I play in a band with now, Clark Andrew Libby, who I often play with now, and Clark has been like wonderfully generous and opened like so many other doors for me. When I first came here, one of my first nights here, Michael was like, we have to go to this open mic, and it was the open mic that's not there anymore, that Felix Peralta used to run at Albuquerque Distilling, and like Felix would get up and play with you when you would do your songs, and he is just such a wonderful, like amazing player, and also just a really good dude. And through him, I met, then I started going to that Thursday open mic up at Trail Rider that Dave Barclay hosts, and I played in his band some, including on this stage. So I thought the community here is awesome. There's like a really, really wonderful music community. The writing community, I think here is less public than the New Orleans community, but I've sort of slowly found people like Lynn Miller and Linda Miller, who run Bosque Press, and Rebecca Aronson, who's a wonderful poet who has a series called Bad Mouth Burke. So I've sort of, I've just kind of consistently gone out and tried to meet folks, and I think I've really lucked out with a lot of the folks I've met, including you.
Yeah. I mean, does the names you're mentioning, all those people, which we were talking earlier about how Albuquerque has a collection of some just incredibly talented people, but like you said, so open, so humble, so inviting and encouraging. It doesn't, not the sense of, oh, someone's infringing on my possible thing. People are very willing to share, which I think, you have a good, kind spirit. I think people can feel that also, and they welcome that. So tell us, what's the next, the second song you're going to be playing?
The next song I think is Black Dog Redux, or Black Dog. I don't know how to say that word. There's a bar in New Orleans called Bar Redux. I always call it Bar Redux, and then one of my friends corrected me a while back. She was like,
"You're saying in New Orleans there's different pronunciations."
Yeah. So there's I'll tell you. You might want to cut this from the eventual broadcast, but there was one of the last projects I recorded there. So Tangled Up in Blue, and the line, working for a while on a fishing boat right outside of Delacroix.
Right outside of Delacroix.
Yeah, that's what. So I had a song that had the word Delacroix on it, and then somebody was like, "No, you say Delacroix here." And I was like, one of the last things I did on that record was I went and I actually overdubbed the vocal because I didn't want to get it wrong. And then I was talking to a guy named Michael Dominici, who's a wonderfully sweet person, who's part of the creative community there, who's a DJ on WWOZ, and I was like, well, it's Delacroix, right? And he grew up there. His family goes back there like generations. He's like, it's kind of whatever you want it to be. He's like, you can say Delacroix, you can say Delacroix. I was like, that's funny, man. But this next song is like kind of an homage to, it's an homage to all the terrible lessons I learned about life, gender, sex, sexuality, and also what it meant to be a musician from listening to the heavy metal music I listened to when I was a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out.
All right. Hey mama said the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove. Was just a young man when I first heard those lines. And if I said I knew what they meant, well, I'd have been lying. Hey now baby, said the way you shake, gonna make you stir, gonna make you quake. Was just a young man, couldn't grow hair on my face. I was only 9 years old, but I knew my place. Every hand's a winner, but I always lose. Keep running holes in my walking shoes. I'm begging every dollar and I'm stealing just a dime. Life hands you lemons and you make lemonade. You eat a dirt sandwich and you can't get paid. Standing out here just trying to catch a rhyme. I guess I do alright, I'm doing fine. heavy metal guys, man, they sure got paid. Made a lot of money, man, they sure got paid. Jimmy had a castle, read about it in The Hammer of the God. But the drummers always seem to choke on their own vomit. I don't know what I've been told. Big leg woman ain't got no soul. Been looking over my shoulder just about all my days. Ever since I first grew that peach fuzz on my face. Every hand's a winner, but I always lose. Keep running holes in my walking shoes. I'm begging every dollar and I'm stealing just a dime. Life hands you lemons and you make lemonade. You eat a dirt sandwich and you can't get paid. Standing out here just trying to catch a rhyme. I guess I do alright, I'm doing fine. Hey mama said the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove. Was just a young man when I first heard those lines. And if I said I knew what they meant, well, I'd have been lying.
All right, well, that was a wonderful tribute. I know Led Zeppelin will be proud and honored.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope they don't sue me. I've always been like, I hope they don't sue me for copyright infringement. It would be the height of irony to get sued for copyright infringement by Zeppelin, but
I heard,
right?
Exactly,
right, yeah.
Exactly.
But I love that music. I mean, it's like that music formed so much of who
like,
I
got some good news and bad news. The good news is I got a call from Jimmy Page.
Yes, yeah.
Other man.
Yeah, the bad news.
They would be well flattered, and like you said, if anyone's would be honored with a tribute, they've so much of their catalog is based on old blues songs and such, and the famous "Stairway to Heaven" intro and all those things. But one beautiful tribute and beautiful song. So what is your songwriting process? Are you a lyricist first, like comes to music, or what? And maybe it changes from song to song, but
it kind of does change from song to song. I feel like the way I think I write best is like kind of with a guitar in my hands. Yes. I've tried writing like, okay, I'm gonna write like ballad form and set it to music, and I don't feel like I've often generated stuff that way that I end up using. Yeah. I do though. I used to sometimes walk around. I would just try to write lines in iambic pentameter. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that would, sometimes like you change them when you put them in a song. Sure. But I think there is something about, I read this in Springsteen's memoir about how he felt like he always had to write with a guitar in his hands to test the sound of what he was doing.
Sure.
And I relate to that because I feel like there's a certain extent to which I sort of have to hear it kind of sung. That said, I write a lot of stuff in notebooks and just leave it and come back to it. I'll write like 10 verses. Like that last song I wrote, I think I had like 5 or 6 verses in a notebook, and I went back to it and I threw, I think, half of them out, but I was like, oh, but I could add this and this or that, and I think it would kind of make sense in a way, and then I walked away from it for a while more, and then I came back. So I do a lot of that, like writing stuff.
And it's something, because I know as a songwriter, I used to think if you didn't finish it in that first setting, that's nothing. But then as you realize, this maybe 10 years later or something like that, it's now it's ripe and ready.
Yeah, no, you can come back to it with fresh eyes and see it differently, and I think sometimes you see it more clearly after you walk away from it. That said, I also have songs that I've been like literally working on for like 10 years, where I'm just like it'll probably never get where in a place I'll perform it, but I had a song on the first project I made in New Orleans called Static on Every Station that was like, I recorded that song. I wrote a lot of songs around like 2002, 2003. I wasn't playing out, but I was like living in San Francisco, and I would just a few dozen songs. I would record them, put them on cassette tapes, and send them to my friends.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was starting to play out more in New Orleans, I was like, man, I remember this one song I wrote. Couldn't remember the chords, couldn't remember the words, nothing.
Yeah.
But and a couple of my friends had actually saved those tapes, and they mailed me the cassette tapes I'd sent them along with a Walkman, because nobody can listen to cassette tapes anymore. Right. I'm sure they didn't need the Walkman for anything else. So I actually relearned that one song like 15 years later off of a cassette tape, and changed it because when I was younger, I think I tried to so many rock male singers sing in sort of a tenor range, and I am not a natural tenor. Yeah. So I brought the song down like 4 steps. Like I brought it significantly down. I think it was in G or A, and I brought it down to D to kind of fit my voice. But yeah, so that's I think it's good to walk away from things sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love your vocal style. You have
Thank
very
you.
like the richness of the tone, the kind of like a vibrato, just something that just really, I don't know, very soulful. Were you a singer from a young age, or were you a guitar player first and later, so I'm going to start singing, or were you always comfortable doing both?
Actually, I was not comfortable at all singing for a long time, and I started playing guitar when I was 13. My brother wanted to play guitar, and I wanted to play drums. I had played clarinet. Right? Yes, I had played clarinet in like junior high school band. But we got like a family discount if we studied the same instrument. Okay. And I had gotten my way like last time. Okay. So and it's cool. My brother still plays guitar too. He's he's a visual artist. He's a terrific visual artist. Robert Andes, but he also he kind of moonlights as a guitar player. But and I was very uncomfortable singing, and I briefly studied. I always like to say I studied classical music theory long enough to know I didn't want to study classical music theory, but we did some like very basic, Hindemith like harmony exercises and things like that. And the part of that was trying to learn how to sing intervals, and like I was really, really uncomfortable with my own voice and didn't really even like doing that.
Wow.
And then
what happened? How did you get comfortable?
I don't know. I started like writing songs, I think, and I was interested in doing it. So I was like, well, I'm going to try to do it. And I wasn't really doing it in front of people. I was mostly doing it just kind of in my room. And I think it was a process, a lot of like learning other people's songs. And like I still, if I play like a 3 or a 4 hour gig, there's not a 0% chance there'll be like 4 or 5 Steve Earle songs in there. Because like I love Steve Earle's songwriting, I love his music. I also think like we have a similar vocal range. So he was like, there were people, I started to find people in like pop music and in the same sort of forms that I liked who were doing. And like I loved like around like early 2000s, I loved like Wilco. But like Jeff Tweedy's voice is like probably a little high for, he's like, I don't know, a little bit high for what I do. So I started to kind of gravitate to, and obviously like Johnny Cash. And like the thing I like about Johnny Cash especially is that he can take almost any song and sort of translate it into his by virtue of that like amazing like bass baritone voice. So yeah, I think I basically started from imitating people, and then I've been trying to learn. I think I'm still have a lot to learn, but I'm trying to learn how to sing better harmony vocals, because that's a whole different thing. In a lot of the bands I'm playing in now, I feel like there's always more to learn. But I think that was like the biggest thing, was just sort of sitting down and doing it, and then kind of getting comfortable from that.
And it's pretty. I mean, a lot of singer-songwriters, the guitar kind of accompanies the voice. Your guitar parts are quite interesting. It's almost like your dual roles as a solo artist.
Yeah.
Is that just come natural? Because were you a guitar player first, and so you can just have that skill to do that, or to blend them like that?
Some of it's probably because I'm a guitar player first, and then some of it was like, man, I always loved like, I love like a lot of that like Delta blues stuff, or I'm always fascinated by people who can get up, whether it's like the Reverend Gary Davis, or like when I was younger and like in New Orleans, there was a blues player there named. He was a white guy from upstate New York who but he had like befriended Son House when he was a teenager, and his name was John Mooney, and he performed solo. And like I always really liked those guys who would go out and play just with the guitar and fill that space. Like I was always like sort of so impressed by that and interested in that. So I think that some of it is from being a guitar player first, and some of it is from knowing I sort of wanted to be able to do that, if that makes sense, and find little. And find ways then, how can you find a way to get the vocal melody onto the guitar in a way that's compelling during the instrumental verse, or et cetera, you know, or how can you find something that it's a little bit more than just like the strummed chords?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting and engaging as a listener. You know, I've heard the album, but to hear the solo presentation, it's almost like a whole separate little gift to hear them both.
No, they're different, and it's a band on the record, and like it's a very different thing.
Yeah. So let's see. So tell us, what's the next song that you're going to be?
These same three chords.
Yes.
Which is, so I actually wrote this song. I played guitar, and my friend Emily Newstrom, who is she's a singer-songwriter from Lafayette, Louisiana, and she was living in New Orleans when I was there, and I played in her band for a little while. She had a wonderful band called Emily Newstrom and the Fried Honeys. I think that's such a great band name.
Yeah.
So I was a Fried Honey for like a year and a half. But I think like one of the first times we played together, she said to me, she was like, well, you don't even need to like learn. It's all just the same three chords anyway. So I was like, that could be a song, you know? So I feel like this song, and that just kind of...
It's like a songwriter song.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's like kind of inside jokes, and it like modulates at the end. So I think when I was writing the song too, I was like, oh no, I actually felt like the song wouldn't work unless I went through all 12 tones. Like I was like, what can I rhyme with B flat? What can I rhyme with? And then I was like, no, dude, if you just modulate twice, they're gonna understand. In fact, it would probably be bad to go through all 12 tones.
Maybe sometime if you have like 40 extra minutes and
exactly.
Like, I'm gonna modify this song.
It would be pretty awesome actually, just to stretch it out and continue to do that. That's true.
And when you, there's a lot of like hits on the album. That was the one, the again and again, like, I don't know, like you can't hear that without singing along. Like, did you have a sense when you're coming up with that, you're like, oh, this is, I guess we'll let the folks hear it before we talk to them.
Okay.
Let's give it.
All right, we'll do it. All right.
Yeah.
I keep playing these same three chords, keep singing these same sad words, keep writing these stupid love songs since you left me. Now this song's in the key of C, I only play an F and a G, and then we come right back to the C again, and again and again. And we could take it up to D, then we'd only need an A and a G, and maybe then you'd never leave me again. And again and again, I keep playing these same three chords, keep singing these same sad words, keep writing these stupid love songs since you left me. The A minor sounds so sweet, it gets so sad in that minor key, but I think I'll just stay here in C again, and again and again. I know you said that it wasn't me, but I don't know just what to believe. I think you wanted to let me down easy again, and again and again. I keep playing these same three chords, keep singing these same sad words, keep writing these stupid love songs since you left me. I don't know just what to do. Here's a bridge and I built it for you, so I could cross into your heart. Another sad song that's a start. And we could take it up to D, then we'd only need an A and a G, and maybe then you'd never leave me again, and again and again. And you could sing with me in E, then we'd only need an A and a B, and maybe then you'd never leave me again, and again and again. again and again, and again and again. All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Well, as I told you when you were kind of warming up that song, I was like, oh, I love this. I love that song. As I'm sure many people do, it's one of those songs. It's like a friend that doesn't take long to feel like you've known them for a while.
Good. All right.
When you were developing that song, did you have a sense? Like Bob Dylan with "Blow in the Wind." He's like, I didn't think anything special about that song. I just thought that was just one. Did you have a sense that this is going to be, I don't know, just so accessible for people to just want to keep taking in? I don't know.
I didn't. No, I think I always feel like the things that I think I'm like, people are gonna love this, and then they don't. You know what I mean? And then the things that I'm like, kind of like, I'll try that one. But I actually didn't. It was like kind of a late add to the record.
Is that right?
Yeah. We did this record in two. So you know Matthew Tobias, who has Empty House Studio in town, drummer, wonderful, and
I like to get him know him more, but
he's a terrific. So he, through Dave Purcell from Radio 3 ABQ, I met Matthew and we talked about, and so 6 of these songs were basically recorded live in the studio, mostly live in the studio with the full band. There's some additional stuff, and then 5 of them were recorded sort of in a more, because Matthew moved from Empty House Studio, which is like you can have a whole band in there, to a smaller kind of home studio where it would be, you could put a full band in there, but it would be hard. Yeah. And so that song was like, and there were a handful of songs. I was like, well, I've got this kicking around. Like maybe I'll go ahead and throw this in the mix. And that was one of the ones that I was kind of like, let's go ahead and throw this in the mix. So we did that in his home studio.
I'm sure glad you did.
Yeah, no, so it was cool. Yeah. It's cool. It was stuff. There were a couple things that I was like, I wasn't sure I was going to use that I was happy to see. Yeah, I don't really know. And actually, I played. There's a guy I used to play with a lot in New Orleans who, like, that song, he was just kind of like, he's like, I don't really like this song. So I was like, I would never do it with him, you know. So yeah, so it's weird.
It's so interesting how different people's opinions obviously are very different. Yeah. And then how much we let those opinions affect us or not, and sometimes it's more than we choose to
way more. No, and then I get very then I'm like, oh, I can never play that one again. You're just like, no.
And then especially it's like, boy, the negative comments, like, I wish they didn't carry so much. Why can't they carry a little weight and the positive carry? But especially as creative people, we sensitive.
Yeah. 10 positive comments cannot outweigh one negative comment. And I mean, I think I'm trying to embrace this in all the stuff I do and recognize that it's like, to a certain extent, like, your job is to kind of like make the thing as well as you can. Yeah. And it isn't up to you what people might hate it, people might love it, people might ignore it. But you can do the best you can do, and then it's sort of up to somebody else after that. And I think that's, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, because you want to make the thing as well as you can make it, and et cetera. So
Well, as I was telling you, and for anyone who should I just want to highly, highly recommend this album.
Thank you.
Because it is one of those things, and it's not. Sometimes someone gives you an album, or you buy an album, you hear it once. This is definitely an album to listen to many, many times, and you'll enjoy it the more you listen to it. And the title is so perfect, because it's it just kind of lifts, it just kind of puts you in a good place.
Right on.
So I just compliment you on creating something like that spreads goodness, which is what I think we hope to do. How did the creation of this album, had you been for a long time thinking, all right, I want to create this album, or was it starting, I'm going to do a few songs?
It kind of started with trying to do a few songs with Matthew. And I should say, my wife actually suggested Wonderful Days as the title of the record. I wanted to call it at first, yes.
It's fitting. It's definitely very fitting.
I was going to call it When I First Came to New Orleans, but I think that's way too specific and not. Yes. It's too narrow for what I feel like the other songs do. Pigeonhole. Yeah, but so I knew the project I had in New Orleans. I made 2 EPs and put them on vinyl, and that was sort of, there was a handful of people I like really collaborated with to do that. And so some of these songs were like the rest of the songs that I'd written doing that I didn't record, that I sort of had always wanted to record. And then some of them kind of came about after that. Yeah, a little bit was kind of feeling my way through it. And Matthew and I had talked about trying stuff, so we did 6 songs, and I really enjoyed working with him. I think he's a wonderful producer. And the guys, it was him. the band for those 6 tracks, Matthew produced, Dave Purcell played drums, Jeff Wilson played bass, and Alex McMahon played pedal steel, tenor banjo, mellotron, electric 12-string guitar, baritone guitar. There might be another instrument that he played.
He's a multi-talented
He's
guy.
incredible.
Yeah.
He would just show up with this he'd be like, I built this guitar out of scrap wood and like a 5-watt amp that sounded amazing when you turned it all the way up, and like a box of pedals. And but he's just also like a really wonderful player, and he was a wonderful ensemble player, because I was a little intimidated by playing with, and he left a lot of room for me. Like a lot of that stuff is like, there's a really nice interplay, I think, between our guitars. So I just love that. And Matthew's sort of vision for that was, he's like, we're gonna send these guys demos like a few days or a week out. You're gonna come in, we're gonna run them 2 or 3 times until everybody has what they think is their parts, and then we're gonna kind of roll tape. So like Old Man Bar and the next song I'm gonna play, Walk to the River, were I think the first 2 songs we did together. I'd literally I guess I gigged with Jeff. I mean, we had played those songs. We played as a band together for the first time the night we recorded those songs.
Is that right?
Yeah, I know. That was really, really cool. That was like, so I love that aspect of working with Matthew. And then when we sort of transitioned to the home studio, I was curious. I was like, is this going to fit together? And I think those songs actually sort of help to make the record sort of more of a kind of an expansive whole. They have a slightly different sound, to me at least. They have a slightly different sound, and I think they tend to be like, they're a little bit smaller, a little bit more acoustic, a little bit more intimate, or just a little bit more kind of experimental.
Well, they fit. That's interesting to know that some of those folks just heard it that day and were able to, the talent, and it says a lot about the song that can just so fresh be done.
I mean, they're also not, they're not super complicated. You know, it's like there's not there's not a lot of like this or that in them. But that's.
And so the next song you said you're going to be playing,
Walk to the River.
Walk to the River. Tell us a little about.
So this actually, I guess I still wrote this song. So my parents lived in New Orleans, had moved back to New Orleans. Well, we were there for a while. They lived like down the street from us. And my dad would wake up very early every morning and walk from their place out to the Mississippi River and back and so it was a couple miles down Ursa. And the song is not at all about him, but it's more sort of inspired by that. If you were to take that walk, you walk through just such an interesting cross section of the city, like demographically, socioeconomically, racially, like in every way. And so I was like, well, man, like who would be out? Like who would be out? Who would you kind of encounter at like early in the morning on that walk through the down that street and back? That's the kind of the genesis of this.
All right, let's check it out.
All right. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. I'm gonna stroll till my baby gets back. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. So early in the morning, I'm gonna wake to a brand new day. I'm gonna fall on my knees and pray. I'm gonna wake to a brand new day. So early in the morning, all the men out on their stoops, smoking those cheap cigars. Pull my pants back up by the loops. I'm sleeping in my brother's car. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. I'm gonna stroll past that Cadillac. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. So early in the morning. Don't know just what I can do to ease this pain in my heart. The sun is up and the sky is blue. I'm trying to get this engine to start. I'm gonna sleep out under the sky. I'm gonna drink till the well runs dry. I'm gonna sleep out under the sky. So early in the morning, know just what I can do to ease this pain in my heart. The sun is up and the sky is blue. I'm trying to get this engine to start. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. I'm gonna stroll till my baby gets back. I'm gonna walk to the river and back. So early in the morning, so early in the morning, so early in the morning, so early in the morning. All right, thanks, y'all.
All right, I like that. I mean, as a songwriter, sometimes I think a walk in the world and encountering whether it's nature or people are some of the most inspiring things, whether it's creating a song or just building our soul depth and stuff like that.
I love to walk.
Yeah.
And I actually, I love walking around cities. I love walking around unfamiliar places. I actually have I have a couple other songs I haven't recorded. I don't know if I ever will. I do have a lot of songs basically about just like dudes walking around, thing. So it's like a whole subgenre of song that I feel like I write.
And you've done some traveling. You've traveled playing music. Is there any? Sometimes I'll just like, can you think of just any sort of story or something that about any of your travels that just comes to mind?
Oh man!
Not to put you on the spot, but it could be any sort of incident, encounter.
Well, I might tell you that Hey Miss Spring story again, which I told. I think I told this earlier.
Please.
So I have on my right arm a tattoo of an oak tree, and this is actually a cover-up of another piece. And the image is based on Leo Gonzalez at Stay Gold Tattoo did it. I want to shout him out because he's an amazing tattoo artist. And it's based on an image of an oak tree in City Park in New Orleans that has wind chimes hanging in it, and called the Singing Oak. And 2 or 3 months after I got this, like it hadn't even healed for that long. I was playing in Hey Miss Springs at Los Ojos with my friend Debo Orlovsky. We did like a duo gig. And she had a shirt on that said from Festival Acadien because she used to go. I love here, every band I play in here has some reference to Louisiana music. Like there's a really interesting sort of like synergy with like New Orleans and Louisiana.
I mean, who would think of Albuquerque, New Mexico,
I know.
or New Mexico in general is going to have
They're
that.
totally the opposite on the surface, right? You know,
they have the word new, but that's about
But the accordion is a through line. I don't know. Anyway, so and this couple comes in really late. I think they heard like the end of the last song, you know, and they were like, "Hey, we're sorry we missed your set." They were like, "But I saw your partner's shirt.
Yeah.
Are you all from Louisiana?" And I was explaining, "No." I was like, "I used to live in New Orleans, though." And he was like, "Oh, so do we." And we got to talking, and he was like, "Well, we lived in the same neighborhood, like mid city." And then he's like, "You might have heard of my art project. After Katrina, I hung wind chimes in this oak tree in City Park." And I was like, "I actually have an image of your tree."
That is the crazy.
Yeah, just so bizarre. So, and I've had a few experiences like that on the road, like running into people. And like, I'm mostly like, I think that it's weird, like you meet people, you know, you realize how much we have in common as people. Like you meet so many interesting people.
Especially when you're actually having a conversation.
Yes.
When you're on social media, it's like, who are these crazies? But when you're actually having a conversation.
Yeah, and occasionally, don't get me wrong, occasionally I've had conversations with people and I'm like, who are these crazy? But I think you get an appreciation for how much we actually kind of share underneath everything, and where people come from. You know, I also think that definitely driving around, you see people camping out in like parking lots. You see, like, I think a lot of people also live in sort of like fairly like desperate circumstances in our country, and you see that. But that might be, and that was only like an hour or two up the street. That was in Hey Miss Springs, but that's like one of the crazier experiences
That's incredible.
I've had. Yeah.
I mean, I just think sometimes as I was saying, there's coincidences, and then it just feels like there's this divine or some frequency of connections of how we're all connected, and I don't know how to explain it, but certain things happen just are overwhelmed with the magic of the world.
No, it's like it feels like you're like, okay, I'm in the right place. at the right time.
Yeah.
Something
and so,
like that.
This album is going to be on vinyl as well.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And so, what's kind of like the plan? You know, like there's the writing, there's the recording, and then it's like, okay, now this is out in the world. Can you tell us just about that experience of getting it out in the world, and maybe playing gigs to promote it, and just getting people so they can know about this awesome record.
I mean, I have so little, like, the music industry, I think, has changed so much in the last X number of years, right? So to some extent, I feel like nobody knows what they're doing anymore.
Right, because it keeps changing.
It keeps changing, mean? Like what you did 5 years ago, because like somebody's like, oh, you got to get it playlisted here, and now somebody's like, no, don't bother with that. So I don't, like I am doing some of that stuff. I have never done this before, but like I did, like there's like, I found like a PR person to help find get like, because like that, and who I think has been very, very helpful in that world. But honestly, I think a lot of the stuff I've done that feels like it's connected with folks too is like something like this, or I'm going to be on Folk Roots on KUNM on June 30th. Hopefully I may go on Studio 505. I've just reached out to people locally because there's such a wonderful community that supports that here. I was gonna try to go to California later this summer, and like gas prices are kind of freaking me out. And it's like already expensive there. So I think I'm gonna kind of stay within like a day's drive radius of Albuquerque. I'm kind of always going on the road. So I will try to do that. We're having a vinyl release party. The band from the record, the drummer's in the Midwest now, so it's Matthew Tobias, Jeff Wilson, Alex McMahon, me with Clark Andrew Libby and Carson Berry on backing vocals. We're going to do a record release party at Long Hair on Thursday, June 25th. I will try to, I'm going to do everything I can to get it in front of people, and I think that's kind of, but yeah, it's exciting, and it took me about a year and a half. I think the first session we recorded was in October of 2024. So it's taken a while to kind of put it together. So I was like, cool, I'm going to put as much as I can into kind of pushing it out. You always have, with a caveat, always, there's like, you do this thing, and then it's to a certain extent, it's not up to you. You hope people
out in the world.
Out in the world, and you hope people dig it. But it's cool. Like I said, the community here has been like so wonderful. And I feel like people genuinely seem to sort of interact with what you do, and so I'm mostly super grateful for that. And I don't have any big expectations. Like I'm like, part of the reason it took me so long to do this is that like it's paid for. You know what I mean? So like I'm like I don't really care if I sell it. I'm sure I'll sell some, and obviously I want to sell some. But part of me is like, dude, I don't care. I just want to like play some shows in front of people and have a good time, and that's I think that's the most important thing. So.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're gonna take us out with one more song. But before that, I just want to again really encourage people to do yourselves a favor and listen to this album. And listen to it several times, because it really is. It's such a cool experience when you hear something multiple times and you start to get really familiar with it and start to really, I don't know. I just feel like the songs are like my friends or something. Like
I really appreciate that, man. Seriously, thank you. That means a lot.
Just compliments to you on the great songs, the great instrumentation, the lyrics, and all of it. And it's just an honor to get to sit and talk with you, and just blessings to all about it, and maybe tell us a little bit about the song you're going to send us off with.
I always like to say this is a song. I wrote this song about a guy who I met at the farmer's market. I used to busk at the Crescent City Farmer's Market, and there was he's a really, really nice dude, and he would come and we'd always chat. And he's like, I don't really work here, man. He's like, he had a buddy who sold produce, who was like a farmer. And he's like, I'd just like to come hang out with my buddy and like do some politicking. And he would literally hang out for like the entire market. And he would just go around. He knew all the vendors.
Heard that word politicking?
I'd never heard it before. And I was like, that's like a whole personality type in a word, It's also politicking. It's also a personality type that I, to a certain extent, share, So I was like, all right, so yeah. So, and I hope if I cannot remember, my memory for names is like gone, but I hope if that person were ever to see this, he would understand that it's written sort of in an homage to that. And the song, the guy in the song is different from him. I didn't sort of steal details from his life, but it's just sort of an homage to, like I said, a personality type that I think I to a certain extent share, of just like kind of enjoying being out, like talking to people, man.
Yes. All right. Well, let's enjoy this song, and thanks again for being
thank
here.
You. Thank you.
Pleasure,
thank you for a wonderful interview.
It's an honor to know you.
Yeah,
and,
likewise.
Bless this album. Let it spread far and wide, and bless your music and all you do.
Seth,
it's been
thank
Tom
you.
Andes. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for watching, y'all. Guess I've always been a real big talker, like my daddy a real fast walker. I like my friends and I like a glass of beer. I like to go out on a Saturday night. I feel at home in the neon lights, like a good conversation and a great big glass of cheer. Politicking, I'm just politicking. I'm just sitting here talking to all my friends. Politicking, like the sign says, I'd rather be fishing. I live way down where the blacktop highway ends. Timmy over there, well, he's my friend. He lives way down where the highway ends. He likes to grow that collard beans and corn. He'll let you come and pick it by yourself, so much you gotta keep it on a shelf after you drive your truck home from his farm. Politicking, I'm just politicking. The good Lord knows I've never met a stranger yet. Politicking, if there was a skillet I'd be licking it, just like George and Tammy on old Jet Set. This used to be one damn fine town. Lately everything's got kinda run down. The drugstore's closed and the groceries boarded up. There's a new Walmart out by the strip, out where I keep my boat in a slip. One day soon gonna drink from that 11 cup. Politicking, I'm just politicking. I'm just sitting here reminiscing about the time. Politicking, when the man comes, I'd best be splitting. Back in the day, you know, a phone call cost a dime. Guess I've always been a real big talker, like my daddy a real fast walker. I like my friends and I like a glass of beer. Don't like to stay home on a Tuesday night. I feel alone without those lights. Give me a minute, won't you let me bend your ear? Politicking, I'm just politicking. I'm just sitting here talking to all my friends. Politicking, like the bumper sticker says, I'd rather be fishing. I live way down where the blacktop highway ends. I live way down where the blacktop highway ends.